Hello everyone and welcome back to Soren Review. And today we're going to be doing a race review for Daytona. First off, what a crazy race. This race was very hectic, at least for the last 20 laps or so. This race was about as smoothly as I think it could have gone. The racing itself was pretty good. I know a lot of people were worried about how this new aero package would work. I was a bit worried as well, but at the same time, I knew that it was going to race pretty similar to what we've seen in the past. And it did. It really just was a little slower than what we normally would see, from a super speedway race with a low down or high downforce, low horsepower package. It raced well. I thought just really that it just raced slower. Even the wrecks felt a little slower, right? But I think NASCAR did a very good job to avoid these big wrecks that we saw in the Daytona 500 or that we saw at the Geico 500 earlier this year. NASCAR did a very good job in creating an aero package that still creates this very close racing while at the same time making it safer. As for the race itself, the first two stages had some very, very close racing. It had we made it to the end of the first stage though without any wrecks. Michael McDowell, however, was out on lap 23 due to an engine issue, and Quinn Houff, while this wasn't actually ever reported during the race, he did have a mechanical failure, was able to get back on the track. However, he did finish 29 laps down. We did have a wreck mid-stage too, collecting Eric Almirola, Bowman, Priest, and Anthony Alfredo. Now, it was just a stack up on the bottom line. Eric Almirola kind of got churned off a car by the looks of it because they all stacked up at the front. Bowman and Almirola spun around. Priest had some damage, and Anthony Alfredo got damage as well. Alfredo actually was never a factor in this race. He actually had to do a pass-through penalty at the beginning of the race, put him a lap down. Never really did that well. Finished 2 laps down in the end of it. Finished 26th. Uh, However, it wasn't till about 20 some laps to go that we started to get a lot of action. We had this weird fuel strategy where we had the Fords who pitted uh, before really early in the fuel window, and everybody else who was going to try to pit later and try to lap the Fords. And we are probably going to have an interesting fuel strategy, and Rick Ware Racing took themselves out. Garrett Smithley spun off turn 4. He got loose, took himself out along with Joey Gates and Cody Ware. So unfortunate for all those guys, especially Cody Ware. He was actually up in the top 20 for a good portion of the first half of the race. So uh, Cody Ware was actually not doing that bad. He actually finished 28th. Smithley, Joey Gase, 30th and 31st. Back markers were competitive at some points. However, we'll talk about this in a minute. Some got good results, others didn't. David Starr, again for Motor Business Management, didn't do that well, 27th. So we restarted, and with about 13 to go, they wrecked. Martin Truex Jr. Uh, got churned off the bumper of another car. I can't remember who, but they all checked up in front of him. He got churned, took himself out with William Byron and some other cars. Chase Briscoe, Landon Castle, who he was also running very, very well, top 20 all day until that wreck. He was caught up in it. This was the some other cars. Daniel Suarez, Brad Keselowski received some damage. The big thing though, Tyler Reddick was involved. He in this incident, whole nose was caved in. However, he was able to continue. It was big though because he had damage, and so it looked like Austin Dillon was gonna make it. But then they reported that Austin Dillon had a battery issue, so they had to change the battery, and so both cars were able to continue, but they were both pretty far back in the field. Then with about I think 2 laps to go. We had some really close racing, a ton of cars coming up to the front. Chris Buescher, Matt DiBenedetto, uh, and Chase Elliott. Matt DiBenedetto up there tried to make pass Elliott. Similar to Reddick last year, where Tyler Reddick made a super aggressive block, Chase Elliott did almost the identical move in the identical part of the racetrack, right out of turn 4, caused a wreck, collected a ton of cars. Chase Elliott ended Christopher Bell's night, ended the Benedetto's night. He was just stayed out of trouble the whole night, rode around in the back, but still collected. Keselowski was done. Kyle Busch done. Denny Hamlin done. Priest damage. Cole Custer out of the race. Stenhouse, who was running up very well, out of the race. Kaz Grala out of the race. Actually, Kaz Grala did receive a foot injury from this race. Kyle Busch spun to the inside wall and then came back up, and I guess Kaz Grala thought he wasn't going to go in front of him, and Casper kind of very similar to how, if you remember, Landon Castle kind of speeding up and then hitting William Byron in the 2019 Daytona 500. Very similar to that. Gralla received a foot injury. It looks like he'll be okay though. And we restarted. A ton of different names were at the front on this restart. Guys who had never even won before. I think the top 8, only one had won that season. That was Ryan Blaney. Uh, but it consisted of Austin Dillon, Corey LaJoy, Kevin Harvick, Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez, who else? Bubba Wallace. Some really interesting names. And we restarted, and Blaney got a really good restart on the bottom thanks to Corey LaJoy. He was able to get out in the lead and was leading, and with a half a lap to go, everyone jostling for positions. Daniel Suarez, with help from Kurt Busch, had a big run. He got to the inside of Harvick, who was the second place car in turn 3, and they got churned and took out the entire field, other than Ryan, behind Brian Blaney. Very similar to the 2020 Daytona 500 or 2021 Daytona 500 earlier this year, where everybody wrecked in that turn 3 area. Again, pretty much identical, just not collecting the leader. Took out almost everybody. Took out Austin Dillon. Dillon done for the night. Well, he wrecked. It was the last lap, but Austin Dillon done for the race. He did not make the playoffs. Reddick did. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but big wreck. It was a bit annoying. Just it really was to see all these cars, wrecked, and it was absolutely horrible. Yeah, really, really bad wrecks there. But Ryan Blaney wins. It's his second in a row, third this season. Blaney on a tear. Blaney's actually seeded number 2 for the playoff points this season. So if Ryan Blaney wins the championship, I have no idea what to say about that. But let's talk about your top 10. Blaney first. Bubba Wallace second. Now, I do want to point out Chris Buescher actually finished second, but he was later disqualified for, I think, a track bar uh, not set up properly or something like that. He finished 40th. Hate to see that for Buescher. But Bubba Wallace gets second. Ryan Newman, third, second top 5 of the season. Fifth top 10 of the season. Newman doing great. Ryan Breeze, fourth. Tyler Reddick, damaged car. He finished his fifth. Justin Haley, third career top 10, finishes sixth. Bowman, seventh. Elliott, eighth. BJ McLeod, ninth. Best career finish for him. First top 10 in any of the top 3 national series. First top 10 for that Live Fast Motorsport team. BJ McLeod stayed out of the trouble. Josh Bilicki, 10th. First career top 10 in any of the 3 national series for him. Rick Ware Racing, top 10. Absolute great performances. This was a very also Eric Jones finishes 11th. This was a very good showing of staying in the back the entire race and then finishing with a good result. That was basically this race, keeping a clean car, and that's probably how BJ McLeod, Josh Bilicki able to get those good results. Absolute great performances. As for the racing, I thought the racing was pretty good. There were some single file moments, but it was fair about the time of the race. But overall, racing was very good. I love this package NASCAR brought. It's safer and it basically races the same. 8 cautions, not that many. It's a pretty quick race. Only actually stayed under the 3 hour mark. So again, not that bad overall. As for the playoffs are set. I think if it were to get eliminated, the cars out are McDowell, Almirola, Reddick, and Harvick. Now, who I think's going to get eliminated? I think I have to go with McDowell, Almirola, Harvick, and I'm gonna go with Brad Keselowski. I might explain it in a different video, but I'm going with those because I think McDowell and Almirola, obviously, but Harvick just doesn't. He's the last seed right now. He's currently last, 16th entering this. No driver 16th in points has ever advanced past the first round, so I think that leaves Harvick to be eliminated. And frankly, Brad Keselowski has kind of stunk at these racetracks earlier this year when we went Darlington. Uh, was pretty bad. I mean, absolutely terrible. Richmond, he was not very good, and we'll see. Nobody's done Bristol, this year, since we had Bristol Dirt. So we'll see. We'll see. I really don't know though. I think we're gonna see some upsets. I think in this playoffs, Final Four. I think we're gonna see Larson, Byron. I think we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see Hamlin. My top four right now is Larson, Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and that final spot: Blaney, Byron, Elliott, Truex. Could be any of them. Could be Logano. Uh, but I think the only ones for sure is Larson, Hamlin, Kyle Busch. We'll see though. Who knows? This is gonna be a very unpredictable next 10 races. Anything can happen. I truly do believe it. We go to the Southern 500 next week, so whatever happens, we'll see. I think that's gonna do it though. I'm trying to remember if I had anything on my list to talk about. I don't think so. Overall, good Daytona race. I don't think it was the best Daytona race we've ever seen, for sure, but it definitely exceeded my expectations considering we had a new aero package. So that's going to do it for this video. Remember, you can use code Soren72 to get free shipping on all orders $20 or more when you order from Circle B Diecast. That's code Soren72. Also follow me on Twitter if you want, @ReviewSoren. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and goodbye.